You are watching the New American Media. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, America. It is July 13th, 2012, and I'm your host, Brian Engelman. This is the Unhappy Hour live sports program, the only Cleveland-Centric, Los Angeles-based sports show that we are currently aware of. Thank you very much for joining us today. I want to thank our special guest, Brandon Odell, who joined us to talk about the Cleveland Browns and the NFL in general. We're going to be focused on the NFL with Brandon and myself. And what we usually do is when we talk about the NBA, we are speaking with Zak Baris. Zak is another lifelong Cleveland sports fan, and he's also an NBA scout. He's recently been hired by a certain NBA team, which we will talk about when we're allowed to talk about it. But Zak is really good bringing the NBA analysis, and we want to thank everybody out there listening on YouTube after the fact. If you are out there listening, please click subscribe, because then we can remind you when our shows come out and we can show you the new videos. It's not just sports. It's Agree to Disagree, which is politics, spirituality, the meaning of life, finance, everything you're not supposed to talk about inside of a bar. So we challenge you, especially those of you who have commented on the sports stories, to join us for some of the other programs. Find something that looks interesting, give it a listen, and leave your comments below. Keep it mostly civil, and we encourage that conversation. By the way, we want to thank our sponsor for this segment. That would be Three Black Cats. Three Black Cats is a company who, if you want to help the New American Media, you can help Three Black Cats. You can find them. They make tribal belly dance accessories and homemade herbal products. Really cool fake gauge earrings. Guys, if you don't know what to get your girlfriend or your wife or your mom or your grandmother, just look at all of the cool stuff on here. Buy a couple of things. Get an order. Order a box of things. Get 5 or 10 things. Put it in a box. Not the herbal products, because those are organic and they're not going to last for 18 years. You do need to use those. But get a few pairs of earrings, and then when you forget about an anniversary or there's a birthday coming up or you need to give a gift to your niece or something, just pull it out of the box and go, all right, good. I don't need to go to the store. I don't need to get a gift card. I don't need to put a card together. Just, here you go, honey. Here's some cool stuff. So check it out. That's Three Black Cats. You can find it at 3. That's the number 3 blackcats.storeenvy.com. Store Envy has one E. That's STORENVY. So 3, the number 3 blackcats.storeenvy.com. Check them out. Thank you very much for being a sponsor on today's show. So without any further ado, what we're going to move right along to is we're going to contact Zak. Zak has been all over the place covering Team USA. We'll see where he lands today. Where he's at. Hello, Zak. It's Brian with the New American Media on the Unhappy Hour. You are live on the air, sir. How are you doing today, Zak?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm living the dream as much as I usually do. I guess let's start off first asking, where are you right now? Last time we spoke, I think you were in Vegas, and before that, you were at the NBA Draft Combine. So where are you at right now?
I am in Los Angeles dealing with this horrible heat and humidity today.
Yeah, well, in the Midwest, it's around 90 degrees and humid like you wouldn't believe, but
feels like New Orleans here today. It's bad.
Well, it did rain. It did drizzle a little bit yesterday, and compared to the dry heat of Vegas, I'm sure it is different. So, there's so much going on in the NBA world. I'm going to pepper you with a couple of different things, and maybe off the top of your head, let me know what you feel like talking about today. Because usually we go over this and have a game plan of what we're going to do, but not so much this time. I'm all right with that. So here are some of the top stories, Zak. I'm going to toss them at you. Let's number them 1 through 4, and then we'll try to get to all of them, all right? Number 1,
okay.
Dwight Howard and all of that stuff, covering Houston, the Nets,
That's
the
going to be
Hawks,
my number
Magic.
1 choice to talk about. I've been talking about this now for the past week. I've been absolutely intrigued by this situation. I can't believe how he's handled himself. So I'd love to talk about this topic first.
Perfect. All right, I'm 1 for 1. Let's see if I can nail number 2. Blake Griffin dovetailing into Team USA coverage.
We can talk about that. It's not as high on my list because from what I'm hearing, he'll be ready for the season. So I don't think it's that major of a concern.
What about Team USA in general? You got a lot to say
Team
there?
USA is going to be all right. Their lack of size is going to hurt them, but we can talk about Team USA too.
Okay, and then obviously just an update on the Cavs. You know, I was reading an article about the effect on Kyrie, the long-term plan versus get him somebody here now to show, you know, when Kevin Love is starting to get frustrated in Minnesota and people are starting to get nervous saying, well, don't expect Kyrie to stick around if you don't show him something. So, you know, obviously just touching on the Cavs, that's something to consider. Jeremy,
actually, I think we should actually bring that topic up first. I think that's the first topic that should come up because I want to talk about that issue and discuss that first because I feel that's the most important one to discuss right now.
Okay, perfect. Now we have Jeremy Lin with the qualifying offer, the Rockets versus the Knicks. That's a very interesting story. The Heat, what did they get? They got Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis.
Rashard Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a big signing, you know, putting those players around. And then, of course, the Dream Team comment, who would win, 1992 versus 2012? That's an interesting question. And then you got Kyrie versus Kobe making a $50,000 one-on-one challenge. I don't know if you saw that. I
saw that.
Okay, so these are the things. So far I have the Cavs and Kyrie in the direction we're moving. That's number 1. Number 2 is Dwight Howard and that whole drama. Pick out of the rest. What do you want to focus on?
We can talk about whatever. You can choose the other 2.
Okay, perfect. Let's start with the Cavs and Kyrie Irving. Like I told you, heard the story. And I was reading, I think it was on ESPNCleveland.com, and it was talking about just being very careful. Remember when LeBron didn't see enough around him and only signed the 3-year extension? And remember when LeBron didn't see enough around him, or whatever the case was, where he eventually left? Are the Cavs' lack of moves in free agency going to cause Kyrie to have a negative opinion about the franchise moving forward, or is the lack of paying all of these mid-level players way too much money, is it going to be a great move in a year when the Cavs are sitting pretty and everyone else is in a really horrible financial situation where we can take on assets? Take it away, Zach.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with this. Kevin Love wanted to originally sign a 5-year deal with the Minnesota Timberwolves, a max extension. The Minnesota Timberwolves at the time believed that they would rather use those 5 years on Ricky Rubio. So they opted to sign Love to a 4-year extension with a 3-year opt-out. So I think that upset Kevin Love, number 1, in the first place. That's the start.
Good point.
Kevin Love has expressed serious frustration with the Minnesota Timberwolves organization from day one. And that's why people are starting to talk about it. You know, because Love expressed his frustration with the Timberwolves. And that came on, and then all of a sudden you go, well, Kyrie Irving must be thinking the same thing. Kyrie Irving played 1 year in Cleveland so far. Had Anderson Varejao not gone down last season, they wouldn't have had the injuries and traded Sessions. There's a good chance they would have been, I'm not saying the 8th seed in the playoffs, but very close to it.
And I've said on record I thought they could have made the 8th seed. They were moving in the right direction.
Had Kyrie Irving stayed healthy last year,
Yeah.
Varejao stayed healthy, you know, it's a bunch of what-ifs. But if those guys would have stayed healthy, they wouldn't have been so far below 500. And that's the thing. They would have been close to a playoff team last year. This year, they've already brought in guys like Deion Waiters, you know, and they brought in, you know, Tyler Zeller. You know, there's no need to go out and overspend in free agency. What's the point of bringing in a 36-year-old Ray Allen and overspending for him when you're not going to win anyways? You know, that's what I'm trying to get to here is people just go, oh, no one wants to sign with the Cavs. The Cavs don't want to sign anyone now, right? Anyways, you know, it's better to shoot for the high draft picks. Look what Sam Presti did in Oklahoma City. You know, that's how you have to take a look at it. You don't want to just build a 41-win team year after year. Look at the Houston Rockets. They've been stuck in mediocrity now for the past, I don't know, maybe half decade, 5 years. They've been, you know, they're a constant borderline 8-seed playoff team every year. And finally, you know, they went over and they blew up their whole team this year. You know, they went and made trades. They're going after Dwight Howard. They're going for all or nothing because no matter what, at 41 wins a year, you are not going to win a championship. And I love what the Rockets are doing because, you know, the front office is taking the philosophy it's all or nothing, and that's what the NBA is all about now. It's an all or nothing approach. It's not we're trying to sit here, sit pretty, and just go to the playoffs. You know, the Cavaliers did that in the mid-'90s. Look where it got them. It got them nowhere. You know, and Kyrie Irving, I know he is committed to the Cavs organization. I know his stance on it. You know, like I said, they brought in Deion Waiters who can play alongside him at the 2. You know, he's real quick. They're going to space the floor. I expect the Cavs to have a much better year this year. I'm not expecting them to be a playoff team yet, but I think it's still a year or two away. But like we've been talking about, they've been stockpiling, draft picks. They have tons of cap room for the future. They're going to be one of those teams in a couple of years where, I'm not saying they're going to be able to go and get the Dwayne Wades of the NBA. But, there's a chance, like I said all along, are they holding out for LeBron or are they holding out for Andrew Bynum, who's a free agent next summer? They'll have the cap room to sign him. He could be intrigued. He's already listed that as one of his two teams, either the Cavs or Dallas, as one of the two teams he'd be willing to sign with in free agency. And, if the Cavaliers put a decent young team on the floor and you can suddenly add Bynum to the mix as your starting center, a year from now, you're looking at a quality team and you could even add another piece another year. That's what I like about the Cavs' approach to what they're doing right now. They're leaving the cap space open to sign a free agent when it really counts or going to re-sign their own. They don't want to get in this trouble by signing a bunch of, players who, like an Omar Sheik, who I absolutely love as a player, but is not worth $8.5 million a year. That's the problem.
Well, let me talk about that because you talk about Andrew Bynum stating that he would be okay. Can you elaborate on that? I haven't really heard too much about that particular story.
Well, Andrew stated last week, he's had his frustrations with the Lakers. And basically, he's an unrestricted free agent after the summer. That's why the whole Dwight Howard deal fell apart with the Lakers. Because everybody's like, oh, why don't you just trade Dwight for Bynum? Well, Andrew Bynum's a free agent at the end of the summer. And what is appealing to the Orlando situation? What is appealing for Andrew Bynum to re-sign in Orlando? If he's traded for Dwight Howard, they don't have any young assets. No talent. They don't have a lot of draft picks. They're in basically, I'm going to just put it in quotes, is cap hell. They're stuck. They've got horrible contracts there. Otis Smith did an awful job down in Orlando, and I think that's putting it nicely. And, there's no reason for him to resign. And then you look at teams with cap room, you look at the Dallas Mavericks, who, Mark Cuban's a fantastic owner. They've got Dirk down there, even though he's aging. They've still added, as I looked at it the other day, I looked at Dallas and I go, they might not win 30 games this year. Suddenly they add Chris Kaman, they added Elton Brand, they added Darren Collison. They're looking like, a back-end playoff team, but they didn't spend any of their, their money in free agency yet. They got all those guys really cheap. And, that's an intriguing possibility for Bynum to go to. And you have to look at the Cavaliers, too. He mentioned the Cavs as one of the teams you would look at. Don't forget he and Kyrie Irving have the New Jersey connection, which people seem to forget about. They're both from New Jersey. And it's a good possibility for Bynum because he looks at it and goes, let's say the Cavs win 36 games this year. You suddenly add one of the second-best center in the game to the mix. You're looking at a team that can win 50-something games.
And then you got depth with Tyler Zeller. At least, he might not have much of a height, much more of a ceiling than what you've already seen, but what you're seeing is a very well-rounded player that was averaging, what was it, about 16 and 10 or something like that?
Exactly. And you pair Bynum up and Thompson in the front court. Suddenly you're going, okay, we need to add a wing. We can trade Anderson Varejao all of a sudden. He becomes expendable with the Bynum signing. And suddenly you put together a solid team. Like I said, the Cavaliers have a lot of draft picks over the next few years they can use in trades. And that's the thing. It's not good to oversign someone. Like look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're going out there and offering Nicholas Batum $14.5 million a year for a guy who puts up 14 and 4 a game. I mean, these teams are over. I think the only value signing so far in free agency that I really love was Ersan Ilyasova from the Milwaukee Bucks, who signed for, I believe it was either 5 years for 45 or 4 for 45. But, I mean, he was fantastic in the second half last season. I think he would have been a great fit for the Cavs. But, I'm almost glad at the same point they didn't wind up going, and basically trying to, jump the gun to try to get this head start to become a playoff team again. Because, like I said, they're not going to get by Miami. Boston's had a great offseason. They're not going to get by Boston. So what's the point in trying to just be a mediocre team when you can, hold out for a few years and become great?
I think that's the Atlanta Hawks syndrome that you and I have talked about for so many of the weeks.
Yeah, and Danny Ferry already said we're not going to win with this team. We can win 50 games every year for the next 3 years. What's the point? We're not going to get past Miami. We need to blow this thing up now and start over. The Cavaliers are actually in a great position right now with Irving, especially if the Waiters pick pans out. You're looking at a team that can, they could have a dominant backcourt for years if Deion Waiters reaches his potential. He has a lot of potential. A lot of the analysts love him too. I've come around to the pick. I wasn't a huge fan originally. Like I said, I've gotten a chance to talk to other scouts about him, watch film on him. His game has impressed me, as of late. He just didn't get the minutes in college, and he wasn't a great fit in beyond system. But the guy can get to the hole, and you can't teach instincts like that. You can teach a guy how to jump shoot. You cannot teach a guy to, improve his drive to the basket. LeBron's had that since day one, his drive to the basket. Look at Kyrie's drive, Derrick Rose. That stuff isn't taught. That's natural athletic ability. You can teach a guy how to shoot. And that's what I like about the Waiters pick. He has such a fantastic drive to the basket, and I think it's really going to pay off for the Cavs, especially they can be a team that's fantastic on the fast break.
Well, then let me ask you this right here. This is a good time to bring it up, and then we'll hit the hard break, make our quick transition, and then talk a little bit about Dwight Howard and the situation with the Rockets, with the Nets, with the Hawks, with the Magic, whoever might be interested in that, the Lakers, I guess. But there's this thing where Kyrie and Kobe are going to be playing one-on-one for $50,000, and it's going to go to charity. And I was watching, I don't know if it was Around the Horn or one of these shows, and one of the comments was, well, there's no way Kyrie's going to be able to get around Kobe Bryant. He's just going to be taking jump shots, and there's no way that Kyrie can defend him. I'm like,
From what I saw in Las Vegas last week in person, Kyrie Irving can get around anyone.
He's a slasher. He's one of the best drivers I see in the game. He's one of the best ball handlers
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew it until I saw it myself with my own eyes. I was shocked. I always knew he was good. I didn't know he was that good. And, I don't think he'll have any problem getting around Kobe. I'm not saying he's going to beat Kobe because Kobe's Kobe. Kobe also has that nice height advantage over him. Kobe's got maybe 4 inches on him, 3 or 4 inches on him at least. So Kobe's going to have that advantage. I know, but, Kyrie can go in there and get a couple steals too. Kyrie has a fantastic drive to the basket. I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that the national media don't understand Kyrie Irving's game yet. But it's okay. 1 year in, they're going to get it.
The problem is the Cavaliers don't get the national attention like they used to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is when you see some of these guys, from smaller market teams, it's just they don't get they just don't get the national attention. And if Kyrie Irving played for the Knicks last year, you'd be hearing about him every day.
Yeah.
You would. You'd be hearing about him all day. That he, and you should have just heard the coaching staff rave about, Kyrie Irving. He's a lock for the 2016 team. He has. I'd be shocked if he, from what the coaches said. They were all telling me. They were all saying, not to me personally, but they're all saying, they'd be shocked if he doesn't win an MVP soon. He's that good. He's going to be that good. I guarantee you're going to see major improvement, leaps and bounds this year from Kyrie Irving. He is a smart kid. He's very athletic. He's playing for the summer league team again, which he didn't have to. He's playing basketball all summer long. And that's the thing is this is just a guy who's willing to improve his game, and his ceiling is sky high too. He has no limits.
So let's ask you to call your shot here. Who's going to win the one-on-one and before I ask who's going to win, I had a question. Who initiated this? Was this brash young Kyrie?
I believe it was Kyrie.
Okay, yeah, that was my impression. I didn't confirm that though. So call it here. Did they say what they're going to play to? Is it to play to 11?
I don't know.
I
would assume either 7 or 11. I doubt it's going to be 21. My guess would most likely be a 7 or 11.
Would it be win by 2?
But I have no clue. I don't know the details of it. But if I had to say, I bet you Kobe is going to win just because he has that height advantage. It's a point guard going up against a shooting.
And you know what? We lost Zak Baris. So here's what we're going to do. He's calling that Kobe's going to win that. That's fine. We'll get him back on the other side of the break. And what we'll do is we're going to transition. We'll talk a little bit about Dwight Howard. Yeah, you got to love cell phone connections, but it's all right. I want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsor, 3 Black Cats. That's the number 3blackcats.storenvy.com. There's only one E there. There's STORENVY. So the number 3blackcats.storenvy.com. They have tribal belly dance accessories, homemade herbal products. Guys, just get a few of these cool earrings, get a few of these these hidden book boxes. Take a look at all the boxes on here. You got Edgar Allan Poe stuff. You got Hamlet. They're these fake book boxes, and they're magnetized. You open them up. You put different stuff in there, whether it's your television remote or a whole bunch of your earrings or your loose change or whatever you put inside of boxes. But take a look at the site. Buy a few cool things. Put it in a box. My dad taught me this a while ago. Just stock up on cool things, and then when it's a birthday or a Christmas or some sort of anniversary, just go in the box and say, here's some cool stuff. I mean, who likes going out to shop? I don't. So go ahead and take a look at this. It's organic herbal products as well. You have different body butters. You have sore muscle rubs. You have different lotions. You have chapsticks, all that stuff. Take a look. It's the number 3 blackcats.storeenvy.com if you want to support the New American Media and help us continue to pay for what it takes to put these programs out there for you. It helps when you support our sponsors. And if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, thank you very much. Please click subscribe so that you get the updates when we put new shows out. We do this every week and occasionally more than a week. So I'll tell you what, we will be right back in just a moment on thenewamericanmedia.com.